There are 34 shloks in chapter 13. From shlok 1 to 18, the subject of field or kshetra and kshetragya, the knower of a field, that is explained with examples, with knowledge by Lord Krishna. From shlok 19 to 34, the subject of Prakriti and Purush, matter and spirit, is also explained with knowledge to Arjuna. Now, Shlok 1. The Lord Almighty said, Arjuna, this body is known as Kshetra, and the one who knows this Kshetra is called Kshetragya. Such is the perception of knowledgeable people. Arjuna, you may consider me as the Atman or Kshetragya of all the bodies in this world. And according to me, the knowledge of Kshetra and Kshetragya without any distortion of wisdom is mine. Now I'll explain to you in brief the Kshetra as it is, with all its characteristics, and also the Kshetragya, consciousness, as well as its influence. The renowned sages have described Kshetra and Kshetragya in many ways. Besides this, they have also explained through various Ved mantras, Vedic hymns, and through the carefully drafted Brahma Sutra scriptures. The 5 elements: ego, intelligence, basic nature, the 10 senses, the mind, and the 5 vishyas, anything perceived by the senses, of the 5 senses of speech, touch, sight, taste, and smell, and desire, joy, sorrow, consciousness, and the life force, with all their blemishes collectively, is described as Kshetra. Now I'll explain to you various characteristics of wisdom. The lack of pride in the personal goodness, the lack of ill actions, the quality of not annoying anyone, any living being in any manner, the generosity to excuse, the simplicity of mind and speech, serving one's guru with sincerity and devotion, purity of inner and outer self, stability of the thought process and control over the mind, the senses and the body. These are some of the attributes of wisdom. The lack of attachment with the pleasure of the world, and next, the lack of ego and repeated contemplation about birth, death, jara, and diseases in various vicissitudes of life are other qualities which constitute knowledge. The absence of attachment towards a child, wife, house, wealth, relinquishing mamta, and maintaining one's calm on the grant of loved ones are desired attributes. Unstinting worship towards me, the Almighty, through the constant yoga, the tendency to live in solitude and in a neat abode, and the lack of love for people involved in pleasures of life are some more attributes of knowledge. Constancy of thought and realizing the Almighty in the core knowledge, Tattva Gyan, knowledge of divine philosophy, all this constitutes knowledge, and whatever is opposite to it, that is ignorance. I will now describe whatever is required to be known. When human beings attain peace and happiness, it is necessary to have full knowledge of the eternal Parabrahma, which is neither known as Sat nor Asat. That unknown has his hands and feet in all directions, with eyes, heads, ears in all directions. Because of this existence of this nature, he unfolds the entire universe in him. The understanding of all vishyas, of all senses, but is himself, in fact, is without any senses of his own. And even though he does not hold any attachment, yet he is responsible for maintaining all. He is without any gunas, yet he is able to enjoy all these. The all-pervading Almighty is present in all living beings, even though he himself is subtle, suksham, and is unknown, though he is very close, yet very far, and is omnipresent. The Almighty is indivisible and with one form. He is all pervading like sky, and yet he appears to be present in all living beings, in bits and in pieces. And he, the Almighty, is Vishnu Roop, form, is responsible for maintaining all, and in his Rudra Roop is the destroyer of all. And in his Brahma Roop is the creator of all. He, the prime creator, is the light of lights and is much beyond the illusory world. He, who the prime soul is worthy of knowing, the provider of core knowledge, Tattva Gyan, is particularly present in everyone's heart. In this manner, I have described to you briefly Kshetra, body, knowledge, and Almighty's form, worthy of knowing. My devotee who acquires this divine knowledge attains me. Nature and the Almighty are both eternal. Attachment, envy, and everything born out of three gunas are, in fact, born out of nature. Nature is responsible for the creation of karya, that is, sky, air, fire, water, and earth. Karya also includes the speech, touch, body, taste, and smell. Nature is also responsible for the creation of karam, that is, intelligence, ego, mind, kshetra, skin, tongue, eyes, hands, feet, and other human organs. The living being, through all these, is responsible to endure joys and sorrows. The human beings present in this nature enjoy material objects and articles full of the three gunas created by nature. And the proximity of these gunas is responsible for this soul to take birth and appear as a good or bad living being. The soul present in this body, in fact, a reflection of God Himself. He, as a witness, watches over whatever the human being does. He is the best advisor and He is the supreme owner of all. He is known to be Supreme God. The person who understands all the Almighty and the nature with all its core attributes, even though he carries out the performance of duty, he is never born again. Many people, by meditating with the pure intelligence, see the Almighty in all their own hearts. Many others see Him through Jnana Yoga and Karam Yoga, or in other words, attain Him. However, apart from these, there are other people of low intelligence who do not understand all this, but who listen to the wise and accordingly worship Him undoubtedly. These people also, who follow the advice of wise, also achieve the Almighty. Arjun, all the living beings born out of Yavan Mantra are born out of union of Kshetra and Kshetragya. This is a fact which you must clearly understand. The person who at the time of his end sees and realizes presence of eternal Almighty in all living beings understands the Almighty and his indestructible nature, he holds the correct perception. The person who observes similarity in all human or living beings due to the presence of Almighty in all beings is observing things in the proper perspective. And the person who realizes that all actions are in fact the result of manifestations of nature and sees the soul in everyone is not only the doer, he sees everything correctly. The moment a person is able to watch different moods of all human beings present within all pervading Almighty and considers all living beings only to be an extension of His presence, as at that moment he realizes and attains all pervading Almighty. Arjun, the eternal Almighty, being Anadi and Nirguna, even though present in everybody, does not carry out any work and is not attached to anything in any manner. Just like the entire sky is formless, therefore unaffected, similarly Atman in the body being without any attributes does not get any affected by body's doing or gunas. Arjun, just as only one sun enlightens the entire universe, similarly one Atman enlightens the entire body. The difference between Kshetra and Kshetragya is understood by people who also understand the freedom of performance from nature with the rise of wisdom. These sages attain and achieve the prime Lord Almighty. This is how Lord Krishna explains Kshetra Kshetragya and their significance to Arjuna.